Welcome back. In this video, we're going to implement the timer, and you can see the timer now works. Well, at least that's the result of the video. So at the end of the video, you will have this state here where the timer goes down and you see that the gray bar is going bigger and the green bar is going smaller. And that's basically how the progress bars are working. And now it probably also makes sense for you to see why we created all of these different XML files in the previous video, or the video before the previous video actually. So we have all of these progress bar. You see progress drawable is the normal progress bar and the background is the circular progress bar gray. So now when the progress bar, the circular progress bar, is getting less, you see the gray is just being exposed and is seen more. So now let's go ahead and implement that. And you have seen in the last video how to create a timer. So I would recommend that you try to build this by yourself. So you try to implement all of this stuff by yourself, even though I understand it won't be easy, but good luck with it. Okay, so first of all, we will need to have a variable that will take care of the rest timer. Okay, so the rest timer will be the timer for how much time you want to rest. It's not how much rest is left, but it's more about resting and relaxing. Okay, so you have a little bit of relaxing time, and I'm going to create a countdown timer here. Okay, so countdown timer is going to be, and this rest timer will be of type countdown timer. And as we are setting up the countdown timer globally, we are going to set that to null first. And for the rest progress, so how far we've come, I'm going to create another variable here, rest progress, which I'm going to set to 0. Okay, so this will be an integer by default. And now we're going to require a couple of functions that are going to help us. So first of all, let's create a function which will set the rest progress bar. Okay, so private fun set rest progress bar. All right, so this method here, we're going to first of all set our progress bar, and therefore we can use our data binding, which is amazing. So the progress bar, and it's this one here, and we can set its progress to be the rest progress. So however much the rest progress will be, so how far we have come, that will be the progress of the progress bar. Okay, and now we can create the rest timer because we have set up this rest timer variable here, right, which is a countdown timer. And now we're just going to create a new object. And how you do that is you use the object keyword and then countdown timer, where you pass in how much time you want this to last. So in my case, I'm going to set it to 10,000, which is 10,000 milliseconds in the future. And then I can define what the countdown interval should be. So how often do I want something to happen? And in my case, I'm going to say every 1000 milliseconds, I want something to happen. And 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. So every second, I want this code that will be in these curly brackets to execute something. And here, you need to implement the members for this countdown timer object. So one thing that should happen every tick, which means every 1000 milliseconds. And then one thing that should happen once the countdown timer is done, in my case, after 10,000 milliseconds. So what do we want to do with every single tick? So I'm going to increase the rest progress by 1 second, or by one value. It's just an integer, right? So it's just a number. And I'm going to change the progress bar's progress. So here, progress to be 10 minus the rest progress. Okay, and you see I'm using hard-coded numbers here. Of course, you could create global variables here and then assign those. I would recommend to do that if this was a production application. Okay, and then I'm going to use the timer of the text view, or the text view timer variable, to set the text to be, and here 10 minus the rest progress again. But as we cannot assign a number to our text, we need to convert that into a string. Okay, so the result of this calculation converted into a string is what I want to assign to the text view timer. And then on finish, once the timer is done, I just want to go ahead and write a toast on the screen. Okay, so I'm just going to say here now we will start the exercise. And by the way, what is this text, if you were wondering, or this TB timer, not the text itself. This TB timer is this text view timer, which we have here, which is just this number inside of our timer. So this one here. Okay, so that's what I am setting up here. So I'm setting the rest progress bar, which starts a timer, and every tick, so every 1000 milliseconds, so whatever you set here will be the interval after which this method will be called. So after every 1000 milliseconds, call this onTick code. And once you're done, call this onFinish code. And what I'm just doing is I'm increasing the rest progress by 1, and I'm displaying the timer accordingly. And once the 10,000 milliseconds are over, this toast will be displayed. And of course, that by itself will not be enough. We also need to start that timer. So here it's really important to add the start at the end of this countdown timer object. So here at this point. So let me make this a little clearer here. So here, this is where we then set the start method. Okay, so now we can set the progress bar in the onCreate method at the very beginning, like so. Or not the beginning of the onCreate method, but at the beginning of when the activity is loaded. And by the way, we are using view binding and we are using a timer. So we need to make sure that we use the onDestroy method here. So in the onDestroy method, I will check if the rest timer is not null, then I'm going to cancel it. So rest timer dot cancel. And this rest timer is of course a nullable, so I need to add the question mark here. But then on top of that, I'm going to reset the rest progress. Okay, I'm going to set it back to 0, like so. And of course, I mustn't forget to set my binding variable to null. Okay, so that's in the onDestroy method. And now let's test this. Okay, so we set the rest progress bar. Let's run our code. And by the way, it will automatically start the timer once we jump over. You see 10, 9, it directly goes down, even though we don't see the gray background. That's something we might have to look into. But overall, you see here now, we will start the exercise. So that is one way of doing it. But I also want to have an extra method that will set up the rest view. Okay, so private fun setup rest view. So if we want to make any changes later on, we can just call this method instead and then we can make the changes to our rest view. So what I want to do is I want to basically do the same thing here. So if I were to go back from this screen, so let's say I start the timer and then I go back, I want to make sure that the timer is actually reset. Okay, and I do that in here where I check whether the rest timer is not null, and then I cancel it. And I set the rest progress to 0. And then I call this set rest progress bar method. Okay, this is just to make sure that we are not running into a timer that is already running, and then we could break the entire application. So here, instead of setting the rest progress bar, we're going to set up the rest view, which internally also calls the set rest progress bar. Okay, so let's test this again. It should still work. If it's still working all the same, let's see. So we see we don't get this gray background. Okay, so we have the timer that works. That's amazing. And the progress bar is changing as well, but the gray background is not there. And we also see here now the exercise will start, so everything seems to work. But then there's this little setting in use level. I need to set that to false for my circular progress gray, so that it will be visible, because otherwise this gray background that I have here, you see, wouldn't be appearing. So inside of the XML file, make sure that use level is set to false, and then we will have this gray background. So if you want to have that, that's how you can achieve it. So this is quite a lot of extra code that we needed just to get this specific appearance. But I really wanted to show you with a more difficult appearance that somebody might want you to build, so some particular design, I wanted to show you how you can do a lot of custom stuff. Okay, so see you in the next video.